Gone are the days where geographical, location actually limits us from what to do, and also the career that we started with, actually give us, impede us on developing, any further. When those days when we were in school, you finish your course and you come out and then you realize that, oh, if I had the chance, I'd have learned this rather than what I did.
Jesus. Hello, you are welcome to another episode of Lead with Samuel podcast. Today I have with me a very extraordinary person, a businessman, a consultant, and I'll give you the opportunity to introduce himself, and we will dive into today's discussion, which is we are going to be looking at borderless career, which we are going to be discussing how you can be able to utilize your skill to open many doors. And with me today is Honorable Adam Zulhazi.
Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Samuel Apeti, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. And as I told you before we started, I'm one that is very proud of you because I know where we are coming from.
Yes.
My name is Adam Zulhazi, as you said. I am a business development consultant, and I also do investment advising, and also do English and then French interpretation services. So there are other things that we do.
Yes.
But just coming back to the topic of today is about building a borderless career and how you can use one skill to open many doors. So I'm one that have come to understand based on my journey that gone are the days where geographical location actually limits us from what to do, and also the career that we started with actually give us, impede us on developing any further. When those days when we were in school, you finish your course and you come out and then you realize that, oh, if I had the chance, I'd have learned this rather than what I did.
Exactly.
Because you can see other opportunities that are linked to what you didn't get the opportunity to learn. But when you finish SS, if you are not lucky to have siblings or maybe family members that are actually in the working class to actually guide you on which course to do or which course not to do, you end up choosing a course that you think, oh, this is what everybody is doing, and then you go and do it. You finish and realize that, okay, I should have learned this, I should have learned this. I believe that because of the evolution of times now, we actually have the opportunity to acquire more skills.
Yeah.
I'm one that just coming back to the things that I say I do language services where we do interpretation into and also translation into languages. I do business consulting services.
Before you continue, how were you able to cover all these things,
exactly,
especially when it comes to the language aspects? I think in Ghana, one of our major issue is being able to learn different languages. I think, and when you talk about French, for instance, we know Ghana is surrounded by French-speaking countries.
Yes.
But I think we are not giving that, or we are not being pushed enough to venture into learning the other alternative languages. But how were you able to make it? What inspired you?
So that actually was what I was driving at. I've come to realize that, look, keep developing yourself, and opportunities will meet you, rather than the old notion where you have to keep chasing opportunity. Those days we have been told that keep chasing opportunities, your day will come. What you are doing is that you keep chasing opportunities and time is going.
Yes.
You're wasting time because you are chasing opportunities. Guess what? Whilst you are chasing opportunities, you are finding other opportunities that you are not fit for.
Exactly.
And you are wasting time.
You drop them.
Exactly.
Instead looking for what
do you actually qualify for?
That's a major issue, and I feel it's around our educational system.
Exactly.
And I think we are not being prepared to cover a lot of things. We are being prepared to always focus on one thing.
Exactly.
So,
so the notion where we are all told, okay, go to school, graduate, get a job, and it's not easy to find a job.
Yes.
When you actually close your mind to one career, the young people of today, actually think that you must choose a career path and remain into it, forever. My journey has taught me different. My journey is one that has, taught me that, get the skills, keep developing yourself, and the right opportunities will meet those skills that you are developing. Guess what? When we completed school, where I inquire, my first degree was into organizational development, and then also, which I'm doing right now, organizational development and finance and investment. So when I got that degree, I realized that it was difficult to get jobs in that field. Now, I had the opportunity of joining a group of young people that actually thought that we have to make it for ourselves, and we kept training ourselves, including you. Today I'm telling people, if you have not told them, just keep developing yourself.
Yes.
And along the way, when we're developing ourselves, I got the opportunity to actually learn, languages. And not just learn languages. Most people, when they think of a French, okay, let me go and learn French. No, don't just learn French. Learn French to be able to use it to solve problems. Now that, that comes to the first lesson I want our young, my fellow young people to understand today. Try to always find a way of solving problems in all the services
especially
that you want
with the
to render.
skills that you've learned.
Exactly. Yes. If you want to learn a skill, don't just learn it. That's what I'm talking about. French. I want to go and learn French. But why are you learning French? Learn French because you want to solve a problem. So when I was learning French, I wasn't just learning it just for speaking, sake. No. I was learning it so that I would solve a problem. And along the way, I was, I met, somebody that actually told me that, look, this is one of the things that you can solve. I used to talk about football a lot, and he told me that look beyond football, look at sports translation, look at sports interpretation. And since that day, I've had the chance of, joining the African Games as one of the lead, interpreters and what's the name? The language liaisons.
Okay.
I was the deputy, manager for the language liaison for African Games. This is about me finding how I can use that skill to find, to solve, a problem, and actually opportunities meeting me because I'm developing myself. Guess what? If I was still holding my degree, going around looking for a job, I'd still be looking for that job. But when I got the opportunity to find an opportunity, out of there, I got businesses that came to me that, okay, what did you actually do in school? I told them I did business development. Okay, can you help us with this? And that's when the original thing I learned in school actually came to play.
Wow.
So you see that when you keep developing yourself, opportunities will meet you, rather than you going to chase, the notion where, keep chasing opportunities, your day will come. That day, I hope and pray that yours will come. But I will advise you, keep developing yourself.
Yes. So my question is, does our degree overhype the skills? Because think of it, mostly degree, people, we feel like we need to go through the process of acquiring degree. Yeah. And without looking at the skills that we are developing. Because, for instance, if I'm studying finance, finance itself is not a skill.
Exactly.
It's a knowledge you are acquiring, but it's not a skill.
Yes.
So is it like, I think, should we focus more on acquiring skill than degree?
So I think, a general overhaul of our education service is overdue. I'm part of that, movement where I think we need to relook at our educational system, because we are not doing, when you go out there, the little exposure I've had, I've come to realize that people out there develop the mind of their young ones rather than giving them, the, cut across knowledge.
Yes.
That's what we are doing here. We need to develop our mind in such a way that we create we stimulate their abilities and capabilities to be able to identify opportunities and actually tackle them. And that's how wealth generation, I believe in creating wealth, not getting salaries. If we keep getting salaries, what we will do is that we'll keep feeding ourselves, but we'll not be able to leave, a legacy for the generation yet to come or yet unborn. I believe in wealth creation, and you can only create wealth when you seek for problems and solve them. How do you do that? It's through the skills that you acquire. What we do here in the universities, when I went to universities, the thing that they taught us was just general knowledge. And that does not take you anywhere in the working field. It's actually the extra mile you go. So when we go to school, it's only those that go the extra mile to acquire extra skills that actually make it out there.
I've thought of this. Have you realized that mostly when you're in school, those that mostly focus on the book, getting the first class, always the first, have you realized that those people don't really progress compared to those that were not serious?
They end up doing the white collar job.
Exactly.
And that's if they get a job. So my experience is that my colleagues that were doing the first class, when we were graduating, I was not part of when they were giving the best student, all the people that got the best student, awards. Today, are either doing white collar job or are part of those that, always send you a message. If you hear about an opportunity, link me up. If you hear about another. So what they do is that because they use their entire time in school, focusing on what the lecturer is telling me, let me reproduce it, at exam time, they don't have anything else to offer. And unless, and of course, they wake up and see that, look, smell the coffee and know that I have to acquire other skills that will actually make me stand out. Certificates are important, but employers are no more looking at only certificates. Employers are asking you, what can you do? What value can you bring to our organization? And what problem can you help us solve? Because business are into the business of solving problems. So if you come and then you are only showing us a paper, we can't work with you. You might go through the door and come for the interview, but if the business is worth its salt, I'm not sure they will work with you, because they will ask themselves, what value are you adding to us? What problem are you helping us to solve? And you may find wanting, you may be found wanting, answering those questions. And I believe we should always seek to find what skills we can contribute in terms of adding value to an organization and in terms of helping them solve a problem.
If
that is set
every
out to
African youth should get a certain skill, what skill do you recommend in our current generation? What skill do you think will be able to help one become a better person? Want to be able to become financially free and forgo this white collar job or the 5 to 9, whatever they call it.
So the 9 to 5 job is, we are not saying it's a crime. It's not a crime.
Oh, yes.
It's also needed. But what we are saying is that it's high time we start looking at actually solving our problems. In Ghana, we do have a lot of problems. So I would base those things on 3 things. The first thing is about better yourself, keep developing yourself, and coming back to your question on where to focus, as in which skills to acquire. I would say the first thing you must ask yourself is that, what problem do I see around me? Believe you me, you see a lot of problems around you. But don't just jump into any problem. Ask yourself, which one am I better at solving? Now that you've not acquired any skills, you'll find one that you are better at solving just by thinking about it. Because that's why I said that the general knowledge that we're being given at the university is important. It's actually to be able to make you think critically. Yeah. Critical thinking is very important. Now, when you're able to think critically, that's when you can identify problems around you. And that's how come you can know that, okay, it seems I'm better, talking about this problem, or I'm better, actually analyzing this problem better. Now, when you're able to analyze that problem better, then you ask yourself, if I'm better at analyzing this problem, let me acquire skills that will help me solve this problem better. That is the acquisition of the skills. Now the second thing is about you actually going the extra mile to what? To take the initiative of solving that problem. When you acquire the skill, don't sit aloof. There's something you can do.
Yeah.
You understand? For example, if I have acquired, I've seen that. Look, the African Games. I give you a clue. Not even just the African Games. We have the African Championships as part of it. We were not enough. The interpreters, the translators, the language liaisons. We were not enough for the teams that were coming, because the entire Africa is coming. Every team, and look at the number of Francophone teams we have in Africa.
Yeah.
Imagine if we are holding a world, championship. You look at the number of, Francophone, and not just French. There's Spanish, there's, Portuguese. We were not enough. Look, even the French people were even better. Those that the Portuguese. I remember, my manager and I was assistant to, Ellie, wherever you are, I say hi to you. We were actually, going from Legon, Ghana Institute of Languages, looking for people that speak Portuguese just to interpret. But you see, you don't just interpret, but sports has its specialty. Now, when you go into the interpretation, now you have to specialize in sports interpretation, medical interpretation. So this is a gold mine. But it's only when you actually identify that this is an opportunity, that's when you go in there and then find so a lot of people can join us. There's still a lot of things to do.
There.
You understand? So when you find what you can do better and you actually go into it, when you finish, do something. When I finished, I didn't get the first opportunity. What did I do? As on social media, getting certain sports, terms, and I translate for people to just listen. And that's how come I got a colleague linked me to African Games, linked me to the other things that I don't want to mention. There are other things in the pipeline.
Let's also look at, we are talking about skills and developing skills. I think there's one major issue that I've noticed so far, especially when it comes to Africa. We are promoting the youths to develop themselves in skill acquisition and other things. But I've realized that majority of the young people, after acquiring a certain skill, they prefer to go outside Africa to make use of their skills. What could be the problem?
So that was the third thing I was going to talk about. We can do our part. If our system and our leaders do not help us, it will be in vain. So they also have a role to play. Look, when we were doing the African Games, I just told you that we were going around looking for people that can speak certain languages. But the enabling environment for that youth to grow is not there. Because when we were actually able to find some people, some of the LOCs, let me not say the entire LOC, did not see why language people should actually be made some of the officials of the tournament. And they were suggesting to us that those people that we've gathered should be added to the number of volunteers.
Wow.
Eventually we were able to compromise where they were not actually volunteers and they were not actually officials. They were in between because of the important skill. Because communication is very important to everything you do. Imagine me, speaking in a language that you don't understand, and you have to, actually execute those instructions of what I'm saying. You see the frustration.
Yeah.
So we were eventually able to, but government, by government, I see the leaders were not understanding why, they were worth that much, but they were actually worth more than that. You understand? So our leaders must help us by putting the enabling environment for the youth to grow. Look, this thing you are doing is, is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity you are providing for we that we are striving to grow, to be able to, at the little that we have, to express it. And then for others that are actually also striving to get the needed information, to get those information.
Yeah.
So you are providing a platform. The government must put in, things in place so that you don't get frustrated. I told you that we have a language service, company that we run, and we also have, a business development together with my colleague Ahmed Salim, whoever you are, Proportion Ghana.
Yeah.
Look, the taxes you have to pay as a youth, It's not easy. If you actually don't have the passion for it,
you will stop.
You give up.
It's true.
So the enabling environment must be there. And the government must let you understand that we want you to stay in and work. How do you do that? You give me the equipment that I need. Not that you should buy the equipment that I need, but what? Don't let it be frustrating for me to get data, because it's very important. Data, the tax we pay on data is one that I never, seem to understand. It is something that we keep saying that we want to, promote digitalization, globalization, and we being able to work from here and solve problems out there. When you find those skills, look, it's easier for you to apply those skills over there because they've, seen the importance of it, and they actually want you to join them. We don't see it here.
So there's no prioritization.
Exactly.
In the
enabling environments must
system.
Be established. The system is frustrating the youth.
So thinking of it, is it like those skills?
Yeah.
They are not worth it. That's why we don't prioritize them. Is that the case?
It's not that.
For instance, we when we talk about the best doctors in the world, they are all from Africa.
Yeah.
But where are they living? They are all outside Africa.
Yeah.
To become the best, you have to be outside Africa. Those when we talk about inverted issue stuff.
Yeah.
They are all outside. But when you check, you see that they are all from Africa.
Yeah.
So is it a case that Africa, there is no opportunity, or even if you've been able to develop yourself in certain skill, you have people in Africa that can build cars.
Of course.
You have people that in Africa that can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what exactly is the problem that leadership, governance, and politics have become one of our major issues. So before you can be able to progress in it, you need to
put you in
go. If you are not in that that system, then you are not part of us.
Yeah.
You are outsider. So I think, is this also affecting the youth?
Of course.
And what can we do to come out of this issue?
You see, we are part of the problem, we the youth ourselves. And we are also victims of the sins of our elders. We came to meet a system where, politics has eaten into everything we do. And this morning, yesterday morning, we had, a deba, a youth leadership deba, where we were talking about the role of the youth into a future Ghana. If we want to see a better Ghana, we have to start telling our leaders of today. We keep telling the youth that they are the leaders of tomorrow. I say we are the leaders of today.
Yes.
Today, because if you don't learn your lessons today, believe you me, you get used to those mistakes, and then you end up going into leadership, accepting those mistakes. Example is what we do in student politics. It eats into our mind, and we come to accept it as the norm.
Yeah.
And when we come out, we reproduce the same thing. So I believe we are part of the problem, and I believe our elders also didn't, help us. Our current leadership, they didn't help us because they make it in a way that if you are not part of the political,
space
circle, you won't develop. And so the youth is striving to actually join them, rather than actually, staying in your lane, entrepreneurship,
do what you can do to support
skills, and do what you can do to help the nation's development, because we all have a role to play in transforming this country. If you go into the Western world, it's because they've been able to understand that each sector of the nation has a role to play in the eventual development of their nation, and everybody is contributing. But here we make it seem as though if you don't belong to that class, if you are not part of the important discussion. So I believe we have a role to play in making our leadership understand that, look, we can actually make a contribution, a positive contribution to the development of this nation, even though we are not part of that class. And they also understanding that, look, there will be a day that you will leave us. What are you leaving behind? What legacy are you leaving for the youth? So that when we think about people like Nkrumah and we are praising them, we also think about you too, and we'll praise you. There are people that made meaningful, contribution. Kantanga, despite all the controversies that are happening after him, he actually made a contribution. When we think about somebody that was actually out there developing and actually inventing things, based on the little resources he has, again we go back to the system frustrating him, not being able to actually tap into that uniqueness that he brought to this country.
It's a major thing, and I just hope that our generation will be able to understand the need for promoting African-made products over foreign-made products. For instance, when you go to Nigeria, they put ban on rice, foreign rice. So you don't eat rice from outside, they eat what they produce. And I think that has made a significant impact on agriculture in Nigeria.
Of course.
One of the basic reasons why agriculture, when you talk about agriculture in Africa, Nigeria always pop up first, is because the government has considered certain investments. For instance, if you are not bringing some to the country, basically our people will be forced to go into working on it.
Of course.
So I think it's time we start looking at
available alternative. In finance.
In fact, when it comes to Ghana, people are producing rice.
Of course.
But Ghanaians, we prioritize the foreign one over our own products.
It comes back to the leadership putting in enabling environment for you to grow. Look, earlier on, I spoke about two things: leadership and also enabling environment. When you look at Nigeria, for example, the example you cited, what we can do is that there's what we call in finance, we have what we call the alternative, the only available alternative. When you make, we keep saying that people don't have, Ghanaians like the foreign taste. We can do something about it. You can overlook the interests of the few that are important to the interests of the nation at large. Because what it does is that it keeps the money here, the money continues to circulate here. Because if you keep listening to, quote unquote, Rice Importers Association, they are out there to make profits. They are looking at they themselves, full stop. But whereas when you take the hard decision of actually doing what Nigeria, I remember Buhari's time, the former president time, may he so rest in peace. He put some ban on sugar, some flyers, flour. I think
a
3
lot of things.
Exactly. So what did he do? It is about wealth creation. I spoke about me believing in what, not salary, but I believe in creating wealth. What you do is that, look, Dangotes of this world did not just happen because Dangote was a superman. No, it was because a government thought that, look, we can actually make this man great because he showed potential. So let's help him. What do you do? When you do those bans, yes, there will be crises, around. Because
they will adapt.
Exactly. People will look at the only available alternative, which will be what? The locally produced rice. And the people producing rice locally, now, they are not perfect.
Yes.
People say, oh, when you take it, they are, unfinished grains. Guess what? When you start patronizing them and you start complaining about that, they will do something about it. Because now you are providing them with what? With capital. When you are buying, they get money to get better, machinery. But right now, you don't expect them to do magic and then actually perfect themselves. But when you are forced to patronize them and you point out the loopholes and you are actually giving them the capital by buying it because you don't have any choice, what do? They perfect themselves so that you don't get to complain again. By the time we realize they are able to compete with the higher brands of this world. So it's up to us and it's up to our leadership.
Government could help them become better than their current situation. And some of the business that you advise that as young person or young people will be the best alternative to invest in.
So based on the small experience I've got it, I think I'll classify them into internal and external factors. Now, internal factors are what we've all come to know. The first thing I know others will say, capital and what. They are very important. There are challenges, raising capital in Ghana is very difficult. But I would talk about the existing ones. One of the things that we've not, been successful at doing is financial, record keeping. The financial literacy of the average businessman in Ghana is woeful. There's nothing to write home about. In all the international organizations that I've worked with, empowering the small scales, businesses, and then the startups. One of the things that at the end of any report that we will write, every program that we will do, one of the top, figuring thing that we will identify is financial literacy. People just do not know how to keep their records. Guess what? That will actually solve the one that people actually think is the most important. Challenges that business are facing, which is what? Capital raising. When you're able to keep record, what it does is that, based on my experience, it opens doors for you. There was a program that MasterCard was doing. They were supposed to be trained. After training, there's capital that they will provide for them. If you don't show the investor that, okay, what you were having, you were able to put it to judicial use, what is the incentive in him giving you more money? But if you have a good record keeping, your books look good, it actually, encourages him. He would rather be begging you, let me put money into your business. Because I can see that what you had, what you were able to raise by yourself, you actually put it into good use and you are where you are. We can see your business, flourishing. But when we don't see the record on how you did it, how do we, trust you to give you more money? So I believe the first problem we have is financial literacy. I have other colleagues in the sector that will say capital raising and then what have you. But I believe if you're able to sort out your financial literacy, you can actually be able to raise capital, which is solving the first problem. You can actually be able to what?
Expand
actually know
business.
the input and output of your business. What does that do for you? If you're able to understand what goes into your business and what comes out of your business, then you know what sells best for your business. Where is the money coming from in the bunch? What does that do for you? You then becomes to what? Specialize on something, and that becomes your selling product. You're selling your competitive advantage product. Something that you can actually boost your chest that, look, I'm into the industry with A, B, C, and D. But when it comes to this aspect of the business, I do it better than everybody. And this is the record to prove it. So record keeping comes back to the essential thing. So I believe in terms of internal, we have other problems, but the most crucial one is your financial literacy and record keeping. Now, when we come about external one, I believe it's the enabling environment once again. Because I believe, look, when there's enabling environment, you will not, make money to be paying salaries.
Wow.
You will make money to, create wealth for yourself and for people that are with you. Guess what? This business that you've opened, if there's enabling environment and you're able to expand, very soon you'll be thinking about what? Having another branch in Kumasi. Not so.
Yes.
You are not a magician to divide yourself. So what will you do? You have to employ people there.
So you're creating jobs.
Exactly. So it's an opportunity that you're providing for somebody in Kumasi. Then we'll go to Takrady, then we'll go to Tamale, then we'll keep expanding. So you get what I mean.
Yes.
So it's about, when we come about external things, there are other things, a lot of things that actually are challenges. But I would like to always, based on my experience, focus on the most important one. What it does is that when you focus on the most important one, it actually goes around to solve the other problems.
Yes.
About internal.
So those are the basic.
Exactly. Things that you need to actually pay attention to, and it actually goes, around to solving other problems that, other challenges that you might be facing, along the line.
In your intro, I overheard agri-business.
Yeah.
And I want you to touch a bit.
Yeah.
As the young person who is interested in investing.
Yeah.
Is agri-business one of the best fields that you can able to generate good resources?
It's a gold mine. I say it's a gold mine because we have a limited, mind about agribusiness. In Ghana, I remember in 2023, I was on a project with the poultry farmers, and then, just when we ended the Poultry Farmers Association training, we went to the Shea Butter, association. One of the things that we are not, actually taking opportunity. Exactly. It's a big business out there. And the finest of it you find is in West Africa. So I don't know why we don't take, this discussion for another day. Because when I start rattling about that, we might not finish today.
Yes.
I've come to realize that, look, when we think about agribusiness, we actually think about shea butter. I remember, a friend of mine saying that, when you do the shea butter and then you process it into raw shea, that's agribusiness. I said, no. I work with a lady, let me mention 3 names. Air Africa, Nguvu Global. They are doing wonderful because they're actually selling millions of dollars out there. In UK, in America, in Finland, they are selling a refined product that we have in Ghana here, but we don't see the importance of it.
I was doing a couple of research on some of the businesses that we can able to, especially when it comes to export them.
Yeah.
And I saw charcoal pop up to be one of the basic products that you can be able to export out, and generate good income. I was wondering, and some of these things we don't actually pay attention to them.
So that's what I was leading at. We were looking at it being transformed in a whole, but that's not where the gold mine is. That's not where the money is. It's when you focus on it being an input for somebody else. So we were looking at, mostly when we think about agribusiness, we think about, refining refining it and making it and selling it as a whole. No. Refine it into a raw material for somebody else. That's where the money is. Because when you do that, it gives you variety of products. Because when you say you want to do shea butter and then transform it into shea butter cream itself, it's only one product that you have, But guess what? Shea butter can actually be put in other products.
It's true.
When you look at that part, you end up having different line of productions, and that's where the money is. Because you become a reliable raw material source for somebody else, and that person becomes your loyal client because you always need it in order for him to get his final output. But whereas when you do it into a final output, when I decide that, okay, we are into Hamatan, and that's when I need shea butter, that's only when I'll bring you money.
Okay.
So you are limited.
Yes.
But when you do it into a raw material for other products, year round, you are needed by a lot of organizations.
I was even watching a video, I think within this week, and I realized that orange, the peel off. Yeah. They were turning that into
raw material. That is where the gold mine is.
What's the name? This vitamin C.
Yeah.
Which I was wondering. So all these things we have them in Africa.
In abundance.
We have them. These things.
In abundance.
When we eat it, we throw it away.
So it's about
someone's
where the production of somebody begins. That's always look at how you can be part of somebody's raw material list. Because as for raw material list, if you're an organization, you always write those lists. Because you always need to produce. Be it, into media, you always need production. Be it into, actual manufacturing, you always need production. When you look at your product as an end in itself, that is where the problem is. It means that you always rely on the decision of the person. You see, at the beginning I said, gone are the days when we look at things, cut, in stone. No. These days, it's about innovation. These days, it's about thinking, outside the box. These days, it's about looking at how I can bring something novel, something different, something that the world has not seen, improving and adding value. That's why I said it's not just enough to identify a problem. No, don't stop there. Ask yourself, how can you be part of the solution to that problem? And you only get an answer when you know how to add value to what people have even already done. You don't necessarily need to bring. When I remember we went for a business coaching, and a lady asked me that, I'm sure whatever problem that I'll think about, somebody somewhere else has thought about the problem. I said, then it means that you are limited in your thinking. what you do then is that problem that you've thought about and you think somebody has, go and look at what the person has done as a solution and ask yourself, what can I add to that?
I see.
So you don't just stop that, oh, okay, I'm thinking about this, somebody has done it, let me give up.
Hi, I know you are enjoying this conversation. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to our page. Don't forget to leave your comment for us to know what you think.
No, what the person has done, there could be improvement to it.
That's where creativity.
Exactly. So don't limit yourself. Keep developing yourself. And when you think about what can be done to add to that thing, maybe you might not have the skills, then go and learn that skills. Then when you come out, what do? You might even become somebody that is sought out after by that person that you think has already thought about. Because the person didn't have the time to go and look at the extra skill for them to, actually take their product to the next level. Because once they thought about the solution, they started producing. But what you do is that you think about how can we improve that solution that they already have. Then you go and learn that skills. Yeah. When you come out, it's either you start yourself, your own, and add that value, or you get into contact and add that value to them whilst you are building your know-how into the industry. And then one day, you are standing alone and also having your own product. Wow. So there's always opportunity in there. That's why I said, keep developing yourself, keep, adding skills to yourself, and the opportunities will look for you and not you chasing opportunities.
Thank you. I think I'm very, very honored to have you today. And I think before we end the conversation, I want you to at least give our listeners, those that are watching us, at least certain steps of becoming someone who is building yourself to be able to grab every opportunity that will come on your way. Because we should be able to think outside the box. We should be able to realize that we don't have to just limit ourselves. So what are some of the things that we can do to be waiting for those opportunities that will come on our way?
I'll talk about my journey in just a short form. When I finished school, and as I said earlier on, education is important. The education we are having, though we can do better, there's reforms that we need, but it's still important, currently, because it gives you the ability to think critically. And if you don't know how to think critically, you find yourself wanting all these opportunities, and then, asking yourself, what problem can you solve? It will be novelty to you. It will be like, Chinese, a new language to you. But once you have that background of being able to think critically and know, to the inquisition of knowing what is, the issues around me, that is very important. Now, from there, what my journey, taught me is that, look, back to the topic of today, borderless skills, borderless career. Do not create a wall around your career. No. Find every opportunity to learn a new skill and ask yourself, how can this new skill improve the one that I'm already having? And believe you me, you find yourself at a conclusion where you know that, okay, if I add this new skill to what I already have, this is the problem I can solve, and this is the value that I can add to society. And before you know it, there are opportunities that will be knocking at your door. And that's what I mean when I say one skill opening a lot of doors for you. Just keep adding skills. Take every opportunity to learn. The first thing is get the basic education, which is being able to think critically. Then take the opportunity to learn every skill possible. Every opportunity you have to learn a new skill, take it. Then ask yourself, how do you attach the two? And then when you attach the two, find a solution to solve. Find a problem to solve. Once you find a problem to solve, that becomes the added value that you are selling. Sell value. Don't sell your certificate to organizations. When you show your certificates, what it only does is that it takes you to the interview room. But when you are selling your value, it actually takes you to the organization as an important aspect of the organization, a priority. They set you as a priority.
Thank you. Viewers, I have two questions degree or skills, which one open more opportunity for you? And then my second question is, can an African child become successful in Africa?
Yeah.
Leave those in the comments. If you have your last word, maybe.
My last word would summarize, around the question, but I still, would like to have the input from our viewers.
The question from you.
I believe certificate is important, but competence is paramount. I say competence because certificates will actually show you, as I keep saying, it will take you to interview rooms. But your competence, your skills, your capabilities and abilities is what will keep you in that organization. Is what will make you valuable to that organization. And guess what? The objective should not only be about getting salary. It should be about creating
Adding
wealth.
value.
So when you keep adding values to yourself, you see that you are the valuable thing.
Exactly.
You understand? So people sort out for you. So you keep creating wealth for yourself rather than receiving salaries. Because when you have the certificate, people will think, okay, we need to meet, the fact that, we need to meet the fact that we need an accountant. He has the accounting certificate. Put him there. Let's be giving him this as a salary. But when you have the skills, because accountancy in itself is not the end of it. They have a lot of skills that you can actually acquire for yourself. And what you end up seeing that other organizations are calling you, we need to do this in accounting, can you do it for us? Because you acquire the skills, you're able to offer that, and you keep creating wealth for yourself. Whereas somebody that has closed their mind to their just their certificate accountant, he continue receiving salaries. The next one will be what I have. The message I have for the African child is that, look, everything is possible. If Apeti and I will tell you where we are coming from, the things we went through, we are not there yet. We are not there yet. We have a long way to go. But believe you me, you are capable of doing everything everybody else out there is doing. Just keep working on yourself. The biggest investment, the greatest investment you can make, based on the little experience I have in investment, is investing in yourself. Nobody else. Once you keep investing in yourself, you keep opening doors for yourself, and we'll meet up there.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zulhazi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and we believe our listeners have gotten a lot of information that they are going to utilize, and we will encourage you to watch the full video, like the video, share with a friend, because this is knowledge we are passing on to you, and you have to grab it and make good use of it. And answer my question in the comments. In that degree and skill, which of them open more doors, especially when it comes to Africa? And the second question is, can an African child develop or become wealthy in Africa? Leave those answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching us. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to leave your comments. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.